I'm not saying these are all the great people, but these are people who we've worked with CITA that have a very definitive view on where Ireland should go. So really just to throw out a wider question to you all. I might start the ball rolling really by asking one question to the panel generally. You know, I was in London last week at the RSCS conference, and I got a sense that the industry there weren't really ready for the mandate in 16. This provides an opportunity for Irish business. Open it up to the panel.
Yeah, Alan, I was at the same event with you, and I suppose from having attended the same event since 2012, certainly the QS atmospheres aren't at the races and aren't getting too involved in the process. And there really hasn't been, the panic hasn't set in. I expected 1st January 2016 the panic would set in the UK, and that a lot of the tier 2s and tier 3s and subcontractors and supply chain would be jumping up and down about BIM, but it doesn't seem to be happening. The bigger guys are prepared, but there's definitely, I came away from that conference thinking there's a major opportunity here for Irish construction companies and Irish supply chain with BIM skills to get into the market over there and to make significant gains. The market is so big, the message, I think, is getting diluted. You know, that the supply
That's perplexing though, because most quantity firms in Ireland, the larger firms, would have UK affiliation, whether it's the Sweet Group, the Gardner Theobald Group, you know, that they would have predominantly head offices in London. So you would think that would filter to the Irish offices.
Well, the UK QSs haven't bought into it. I mean, you've got a couple of companies like Turner Townsend who seem to have gotten the message and are very active in the space, and they come up basically on the global game exact, you know, but they haven't bought in. Generally, the supply chain over there doesn't seem to have jumped into the process.
Yeah. Okay, any other questions for the panel? We have all the representative groups here, QS and engineers. Yes, Kathy.
Sorry.
Sorry, Kathy. We'll come back to Kathy in a second. So your name?
John Paul Construction.
Oh, very good.
I just wondered, what's the panel think? I suppose you're talking about QSs and project teams in the UK being ready. Do you think project teams in Ireland are ready? I suppose I can reference one specification which said BIM requirements, the contractor should produce and maintain a BIM model for his element of the works. One liner, that was it. You know.
Well, for those who don't know me, I'm Dr. Sean O'Keefe. I'm in the U.S. I work for Headcount Engineering now, and I specialize in interoperability. And basically, the problem I hear with the QSs trying to implement their information into the models and utilize this information, it needs to be embedded in up front, early in the process. BIM went full-blown in the U.S. due to owner and contractor requests for design-build contracts. Therefore, the QS was able to put the information into the BIM model very early in the process and keep track of it throughout the duration using 4D technologies, etc. So Ireland has the opportunity now to jump on board with this, but there is a learning curve in the education process that must be achieved. And basically, we must learn how to embed this information early, extract this information properly, and keep track of it over time. Implement standards like the ISO 9001 standard, make sure that these processes are replicated over and over again consistently, and from there we can move on. BIM is we must all work together. It's not just one stakeholder going to ensure that the BIM process is efficient. So if we work together properly, put the information in ahead of time, then I see more benefits for QS management.
To answer your question, in terms of Irish design teams, I think this illustrates a tremendous opportunity. The recession, every cloud has got a silver lining. It was extremely important that companies contracted to the size they did. But in some ways, it made it easy for them to reinvent themselves as well. a lot of tremendous work done on the UK, which we leveraged a lot of lessons learned can be taken and used as well. So we're not having to invent something from scratch here. There's some excellent training available in case sites and loads of experts around to tell us all how we should be doing it. It is a significant change, no doubt about that. But it is a better process and a better way of working. And I think people are keen to do it. Not everybody's doing it, but people do want to be doing it. So yeah, it might be a bit early to ask for on BIM from everybody, but this industry we're such a smart and reactive industry. I think 12, 18 months from now, we'll be much further on, and taking the UK on its own very possibly.
I mean, obviously John Paul have been asked for BIM. What about the rest of the audience? Are you actually seeing a move towards BIM being a requirement in your tender inquiries? I mean, hands up, who's seeing this on the ground? Okay, so that could be 30%, 25-30%. And these would be large clients. Okay, I think if we showed a set of hands, maybe in 6 months' time, it could be another 10 or 15%. So,
Alan,
yeah.
Just to make that question. The problem is you're seeing these stupid mandates where they're looking for level 2 BIM. That's it, and they're unexplained. They're not adding value to projects. They're adding cost. Where clients are saying, look, there isn't an official government mandate, but we want level 2 BIM. And they're not thinking what they're looking for. They're not capable of producing an EIR that's detailed enough or sufficient enough to give the contractor a brief. You've got contractors then who don't have BIM skills in-house and have to outsource. And they're not doing BIM for the sake of delivering better value and better processes for themselves. So it's adding cost to projects rather than adding or delivering value. So
it is a matter of taking that concept 92 and just implementing it in your business.
Yeah, design teams have to inform clients and educate clients as to what potential BIM is on projects, rather than a blanket sort of a requirement for them not explained.
Kathy, I think, was next. So we have a mic on the far side.
She has there.
Oh, sorry. Yes.
Just one thing one pick up on Paul's point, and I think this applies to contractors, that in the contractor-subcontractor relationship, you are the employer. And so, when you procuring information from your subcontractors, you should be asking for better information. So whether there's a BIM requirement on the project or not, I think you should be asking for better information from your subcontractors and fabricators and things. And it's a chicken and egg situation. People keep saying to me, why aren't you doing BIM? That's because nobody's asking me. But everybody's involved in the information process. Everybody just needs to think that you're employing. That was a good point to make.
Okay.
Sorry, just one last
Right,
point on that.
yes.
Just to finish up. I think, as a design professional, we've always been relied on by clients to be their trusted advisor, to be the person who gives them the advice. I think that's nothing different for BIM. Like be fair, health and safety regulations, the client is often one of the most educated people on a construction project. I think it's up to us to inform them if they're asking for something that's not possible, or dictating or not giving enough information, that we go back to them and say, look, this is what you've asked for, maybe this is what you should be thinking about, and explain why. I think it's up to us to start educating our clients whenever we get the opportunity.
Okay, Kathy.
Kathy Malloy, Boston Ready Quantity Surveyors. For Michael Early, just on your current BIM projects, what's your experience of QSs? Are they producing early cost plans? Is BIM allowing them to produce quick updated cost plans, and what's your current experience?
My current experience, I suppose, just to give an example of one project from UCLH, hospital in London, the quantity surveyors in that case, they were keen to get quantities from the model. The first thing that happened was when they received all the models was they couldn't categorise easily all the elements of the model. They did it, and then they came back to us, or back to me as the information manager, and said, look, this is kind of difficult, but if you include the in or M1 codes into it, it will get easier. So a bit of discussion of whether we should be doing that and what was the liability if we got wrong, we put the wrong code into our models. But we did it anyway, and it produced a better way of categorising all the elements together and excluding that process for them. Not certain if there's a lot of difficulty, I suppose, around the level of sort of definition, what's in when you hand over something like a partition or hand over is everything in there? How do you cost that? We tend to use a system where we put everything into these things called T-sheets, where we say, look, there's a door of a certain type, you can cost that, it's a metal frame door, and maybe laminate finish to lead, or a partition that gives you a certain performance. So it tends to go on that basis, but there's a lot of things that not easily quantified, like fixings, metal plates, all that sort of stuff. There's a lot of things that QS traditionally quantifies or adds on anyway, that may not be in the drawings at the level of detail they're at. Eventually when construction drawings are done, they'll be shown and the bolts and everything else. They have to make assumptions, and it's a big change, I suppose, in a way, and new assumptions need to be made about the information they're receiving. I've got to say, probably a lot of them are nervous about how much information they have in it. Does it equal the information they had previously using sort of traditional systems? I think probably they're getting large items, let's say like concrete. They've built hospitals, a lot of concrete in it. They can get the actual volume of concrete in that building pretty quickly. They can have that within 5-10 minutes of receiving the models. As it gets down to smaller and smaller items, they have to make assumptions. But the difficulty I'm finding as well is that because there's an NRM classification in euros and measurements in the UK, there's also been this uniclass system, which is now going from 2 as a draft, there's 3, maybe the next one is coming out, and I don't see why the systems, we've had to sort of cross-tabulate both systems, which I found very difficult to work with. When you think, why can't we have one unified classification system? So I think with a unified classification system, it would help out considerably. It obviously has to extend to each organisation's uses. Like the QS will quantify things that are not models sometimes, like temporary works and let's say scaffolding sometimes. Former, yeah. So it's not easy. I think there's some companies we've worked with that are just digging in and saying, like us, we're doing it, and that's it, and we'll take a bit of pain and get over this. And there's others that are kind of going, it's just traditional route. So.
I think that's exactly what it takes is communication between the two, because otherwise it's just not going to happen.
Yeah, it has to be communication. You have to sit down with each other and spend a little time working it out. I think now is the time, I suppose, in a way that you can do it. You can sit down with someone and say, well, we don't know it all at the moment. We'll sort this out between us. I think in a year or two from now, that'll be more difficult because everyone would just want to get on with it. So I'd say in this sort of next year, 10 months left to the deadline in the UK, get yourselves educated. Everyone get educated. Talk to people about how it works, how they think it will work, what information they need, rather than just handing over models just based on what you want to produce. Because it's not just about producing, it's about consuming information in models as well. That's key.
Okay, I think Sean has an observation, and then we're going to go to TP. He's got a question from our surveys. Yeah? So, Sean, you have a comment to make on that?
Yeah. There's a very straightforward methodology that could be utilized here. In 2008, I was teaching the United States Army Corps of Engineers and also the university. I used to teach at the University of Southern Mississippi how to approach this problem here. And we utilized the Omni class by the Construction Specifications Institute to create the National CAD standard, etc. I did not use Uniclass, and just because we're in Ireland and we're adopting UK standards, we don't have to limit ourselves to Uniclass. The Omni class incorporates what's called master format and uniformat. I'll try and round this up quickly. Uniformat is basically for your model elements early. So your level of detail for your model elements would use Uniclass, and it's in your standard databases and such proprietary software like Vico Office. It used to be Vico software, which I used to teach that before. So we would put the cost early in the model, utilizing the uniformat, and then there's a translation from uniformat to master format, which provides that information in database form to go over to master format. So throughout the duration of the whole project lifecycle, from the beginning, pre-design, all the way to FM handover, costs can be tracked utilizing this method. And we utilize OmniClass, a database which was based on OmniClass, which the hierarchy went down from uniformat into master format, and then also in the sustainability standards such as LEED and associating costs with sustainability. So we utilize IFC models for this, which now can easily be put into 4D and 5D software such as Vico, where you can track costs throughout the whole project lifecycle.
Thanks very much, Sean. I have to get that on a blog or something. Okay, thank you. Okay, TP.
Yeah, so JP Kelly, Murphy Surveys, and MSL BIM Solutions. And this is, I suppose, an open question, but also maybe aimed slightly more, again, at Michael, sorry. Interesting project on Tottenham Court Road in London. What we find, obviously we're in the end-to-end business of BIM. We do the data capture. We do all aspects of data capture with laser scanning and so on. But what we're finding is a lot of clients are asking for a detailed model. So at the very start of the job, we go in, we scan the project, if it's an existing building, for instance, or it's into an adjoining building or an extension or so on. They invest in an excellent model, and then as the project progresses, they don't seem to update the model. So I think everyone needs to be aware that does everything get built exactly as per the model in the real world? We all must revert back to the real world, and I guess, you know, if it's not built exactly as per the model, well then, you know, what implications does that have on the project? And I'm just wondering, maybe Michael, what level of updating of the model as the project came out of the ground was carried out, and did you come up against issues in the real world where the model you know, wasn't updated?
Sean.
Sorry. Okay. Right. So presumably we're talking about construction stage. We're on site. We have a design model or a construction model at this point. And if things change as they go along, how is that being brought back into the model? If you look at the good EIR document, you specify that going over an as-built model. I don't like the word, I suppose, as-built as such, because it presumes that you've control over absolutely everything, and everything is in the model, which it won't always be. There's always going to be information slightly outside the model. But if you call it a record copy or an as-built model, it should really be updated. The problem is at the moment is that there's only now starting to be projects on site where we get that opportunity to do that. Now, one we do have in the UK as for Purwood Institute, that is being constructed at the moment, and we are actually, as subcontractors, coming up with solutions to solve problems. We're actually changing the model as we go along, because we're required to hand over a model that matches the actual the as-built situation. Now, we have to take it very carefully with the information in the model, because we've gone out and we said, look, all subcontractors can you supply information in the model, and some come back with the most complicated families and everything. They say, look, really, that's too much information. But really, if it's a revolving door, all we need to know is where did it come from, who supplied it, is there a serial number on it, is there a model number on it, and so on, and to capture that information and make sure that the actual door physically looks like the door that's there. Because if you go to replace it or repair it or do anything, that's the information you need. So yeah, we are doing it because we're required to hand over as-built models, and but we're doing it during the construction process, working towards handing over that at the end of that phase. But the information is becoming really important, the actual data that goes in there, and we're now trying to ensure that when we put in that information, it's as standardized as possible. The names of those parameters and fields that are in the model, along with the types of parameters that are there. And we're trying to get that standardized for every project we're doing. Because in the long run, when we get more sophisticated sort of software to extract information out, we'd like to be able to use that on that model or that model without having to modify it and say, you know, this one's fire rating, this one's fire something else. Yeah, the process is part of it. I think it has to be. Has to be updated to go along, both in terms of geometry and in terms of the data, which is really more important in some ways. That's your question.
Okay. Question from Paul. Unless Mike, a quick response, Mike, and then we can Paul's question.
Interestingly, it's something quite a major issue for us at the moment, and I think that Michael quite correctly points out. Geometric data is one thing, but there's a lot of information required that doesn't come from the manufacturer as well, commissioning data, and it's extremely difficult to drive the data back into the model. So when you're talking about full-blown cell and BIM, the data is, I think the phrase is quite last week at R6, I think more easily. It's just a profound amount of information that needs to be managed. So I think driving that kind of requirement into the contract is extremely important. Certain projects I've been on, it was a contractual deliverable for subcontractors to verify the install of their product and come back and prove almost that they installed as per where they said they would. If they didn't, it was taken out and it was gone again. But it's a significant challenge that faces contractors, particularly like BAM, who are trying to do the whole life cycle of BIM from the birth point to be very difficult. So companies like Murphy's will be an invaluable resource for ourselves in terms of maintaining that and moving forward.
Okay, so Paul.
Yeah, sorry, Paul Sexton. I'm an engineer, and I just want to thank all of the panel for their contributions to the presentation. So my question is to Paul Chilcock, just to do with education. I've heard it said that the UK construction industry is 3 million people, so that is trying the problem with the UK BIM strategy is to try to turn that ship. With only 4,500 downloads of the past 1192 part 2, and then okay, then there's maybe double that with emails or whatever dissemination that way. What percentage of the information managers, BIM authoring, personnel and contractors would you consider in the industry? So what traction would you put that 14,500 haven't made? I know you're ready for 26.
Okay, well, quite a lot in that question. Okay, I'll try and break it down. In terms of the education perspective, yeah, it's probably a little bit too late down the line. I think it's unfortunate that the government didn't put more funding in place to support training, and so things like we've heard today in terms of the investment side, putting funding or support education is clear, and CITA are putting education courses together as well to family education. The problem we've got at the minute is a lot of people want education for free, which is a reality of where we're at. But then you look at the quality of that sort of education. It is out, you can get it for free, but we've got to look at the quality. And probably, so at the minute, we're trying to educate the current professionals within the industry. I think the focus really needs to be on the next sort of generation coming through the colleges and universities. I'm very sceptical of all these BIM masters courses that are coming out. We're not trying to create a new profession. The work that we're doing with a number of universities in the UK is trying to incorporate modules within existing masters courses. So right across the disciplines to have an information management module within it.
as opposed to a separate company. But you're right, there is 3 million people in the industry. I think through Avanti and the BRA, we're probably up to about 200. So we've got a long way to go. There's a lot of disparity around education. We're looking for someone like UCAS to get involved and to sort of standardise it. Unfortunately, it's taken longer than anticipated. It's a bit unfortunate. There is a learning outcomes framework, it's a task group published. I'm not the biggest supporter of it, I don't think it goes far enough to wishy-washy, to be fair. So that's around the education. In terms of are we sort of ready for that? I think I'd be with all the way to say that we are, but by a long shot. It's still unfortunately confined to a relatively small number of people in the industry who are pushing us forward. Slowly got up to middle manager level, I would say. So project managers, commercial managers, and QSs are put in that bracket now coming on board away from what we would know as a CAD technician. And so the next step really, the big push is to get it to the board level really, where this actually becomes part of the business strategy moving forward. I don't know if that answers.
Excellent. And I appreciate the candour. It's great to we've had a few speakers from both from the UK as part of the past group, and there's always been a healthy dose of realism that it's a difficult task, but there's a lot of good stuff there, and the past at M92 is a very solid foundation where we can work to standardise and build on it.
Okay, I might take one more question and then, or maybe two, right? And then we're going to go to Mark, who's been very patient, by the way, on the panel there, to speak. So we're going to talk to the lady? Deborah. Have we got a mic, Deborah? Oh, sorry, Brian. We'll take Brian's first and then we'll take Deborah. Is that okay?
Yeah, Brian Cruz from the Lap of Water. Just following up on the education side of it, there's a number of us in the room here today who have just finished a very good BIM collaboration and BIM technologies diploma. We've come out of it the other end a little scarred, but certainly a lot better prepared for the challenges that we have ahead. And following up on what Michael was saying, I certainly would say that it's very daunting when you see all the things that you have to take on board. Just to get into it and do it. The course put people together as part of a collaborative team, some of whom were not skilled in a certain aspect. Say we had no structural engineer, they had to take that role on. A lot of challenges were met and we overcame them using pooling the information within that team. So education and just grasping the nettle and getting on with it really are key, I think, to pushing this within your company, because I have spent time trying to get people on board, and sometimes you put up the problem yourself, but just to get on with it, get a bit of education behind you on it, and it certainly then starts to give you mechanisms for breaking the problems down into manageable bits. And one of the things we had was, nobody's mentioned Kobe. We had a bit of problems with Kobe, but the next generation of software that comes out probably would have solved those issues. So I just wanted to recommend education is out there available, whether it's funded or not. Go and look for it and get it.
So that's an observation was for the question, right?
Yeah.
Okay, well done. Lorraine?
Debbie.
Debbie,
Consultant. I just want to ask a contractor's point of view and design point of view on IP with regulated models. So how do you approach IP issues?
My experience to date is we were given a BIM protocol by one client, and the directors on the implementation said not to get involved in signing up for the BIM protocol, that maybe the status quo was a better at the end, because there were so many things in it that weren't appealing. We were on a framework for the project, which the protocol initially was CITA protocol, a couple of amendments, but it was very much the same. When our framework agreement was up and we renewed it, they enforced a different one upon us, which was far more onerous. We now hand over our models and they own them. So it's what I'd recommend is that the lesson I think out of that is that you should have a protocol on the project. CSC BIM protocol is a good document. You can take it as it is or modify it slightly, advise getting a little bit of advice on that. It does have a system of licensing models, but basically the person who produces the model licenses it to another party for certain uses. So it just means that if you take an extreme situation, if I produce a model for a planning application, I'm not going to expect anyone to manufacture or print that building or part of that building from that, because the level of model definition and information in that model is actually not sufficient for that task. So I think protocol is really important now, and I think it should be part of every project that's been able to. I suppose the important point is, Pastor Element 2, Pastor Element, she says that it is the actual employer that's supposed to put that in place, but I think the design consultants and the contractors as well need to be very aware that it should be in place as well, and if it's not coming, they should be recommending having a protocol in place. That's the design perspective.
Okay. So maybe a final comment from Ralph? Yes, Debbie. Sorry, Debbie. Yeah.
I'll keep it brief. I don't have much to add to that. Like the CIC BIM protocol, it's you have to use it. If people don't want to use it, it's very hard to talk about collaboration and sharing and cooperation. The models are there to be used. Maybe the level of, I suppose, maybe sharing the actual native file with all of its attachments can't be done and shouldn't be done because that needs to be stored in a certain place. It does need to come from the client as well. Like the client is looking for an asset information what that he can use for the management of his facility. And if you have contractors and designers not willing to target the bare models, then it's a pointless process. So the protocol should definitely check it out. We use it quite a bit, slight amendments to it depending on the contracts we use it on, but it's working quite well for us.
Okay, so we could go on with throwing more questions to people, and there'll be more opportunities in the future. So I'd just like to thank the panel.